Hello, this is Carly with the North Dakota Brain Injury Network. You are listening to the attention tip sheet presentation. So the intent of this is that you have your tip sheet out in front of you. And this is kind of just to go over the tip sheet with you to make sure you understand everything that is on it. So, all right, let's go. So attention is really kind of one of our most important areas of cognition. It's apart from being awake and alert, it's one of our most important abilities, being able to pay attention or concentrate on important things happening around us. But attention is actually very complicated, and there's a lot of different levels of it. Focus, sustained, selective, alternating, and divided. So we're going to kind of talk more about all of those and what those mean. But it is very common after brain injury to lack attention and to be, it can be difficult to pay attention to those important things around us. So focused attention is the ability to focus on one thing over a brief period of time. So this one's just really quick. It's, reading a billboard while we're driving, noticing that you're cold. So it's really just paying attention to something really quickly. Sustained attention is the ability to focus on one thing over a period of time. So that is a longer, so paying attention to things like a presentation, reading a book. So that's just longer ability to focus. So sustained often is impacted after brain injury. So what to look for with a sustained attention, oftentimes people have difficulty staying on task, difficulty listening across the duration of a conversation, a lesson, a TV show, an inability to complete tasks. So if you struggle with any of those things, it's probably your sustained attention that's getting in the way of that. Selective attention is the ability to focus on one thing despite distractions. So still being able to attend to a TV show while your kids are playing, or having a conversation while there's the radio on in the background, things like that. So when people struggle with a selective attention, they have difficulty following conversations and ignoring background noise. So we often highly recommend turning down the radio and the TV if you are going to be involved in a conversation. Reduced concentration caused by auditory or visual distractions. A lot of times when I present to police officers, I talk about when they're coming on the scene and going to talk to people, if they could shut their sirens off and their lights off, that's going to help the interview process go much better. Difficulty concentrating caused by fatigue, worry, or sadness. With brain injury, there's kind of that before and after, and there's a lot of worry and sadness about that and about appearing different and kind of coming to terms with that accepting of my new normal, right? And then fatigue after brain injury is very intense, right? So there's kind of two types of fatigue, and we have another tip sheet on fatigue in general, so we'll get way deeper into that. But it can be hard to concentrate when you're so tired and you're worried about being tired. It's just kind of a vicious cycle, so to speak. Alternating attention is our ability to shift attention from one thing to another. Okay, so talking on the phone, getting interrupted, going back to the conversation on the phone. I think of cooking a lot when I see this one too. Paying attention to putting the ingredients into the recipe and keeping your spot when you go back to look at the recipe. So a lot of people struggle with leaving tasks incomplete after interruption, or these are those folks that put their clothes in the washing machine and then forget to move them to the dryer, right? Alternating attention can get tricky after brain injury. And then divided attention is the ability to focus on multiple things at the same time. Again, cooking, I think, is a good example of this. And there'll also be some other ones here we'll talk about. So difficulty focusing on more than one thing at a time, and difficulty engaging in two tasks at once. So really, this is multitasking. And a lot of times when we multitask, one of the tasks we are working on is not getting the full attention, so it's not going to be done with as adequately as we would like to see it done. So some accommodations. So when we talk about accommodations, those are things that we can do to try to alleviate the symptom of attention and make our attention better. So we want to reduce auditory and visual distractions. Like I talked about talking to police officers about shutting lights and sirens off, but you can think of that in any aspect of your life. A lot of times when we're lost and we're driving, we typically turn down the radio, right? So we can find where we're going, but it's not our ears that are helping us find where we're going. It's that attention and being able to pay attention to the road and to the, signs around us and things like that. So turning down that radio helps us find where we're going better, right? Using visual aids to help with focus. 85% of what we learn sensory wise is through our vision, through our eyes, 85%. So anytime we can write things down and have a visual, it can really, really help with our attention and help us focus and learn and understand better. It's often helpful to work in a quiet, non-distracting place or wear earphones if needed to drown out noise. There's all kinds of fancy new earphones out there. There's the little tiny buds that you can barely see, and then there's the bigger ones like these. So just depending on what you're comfortable with and what's in your budget to what you can afford and what you tolerate sensory wise. I know I personally do not like the earbuds in my ears, so I like the bigger headphones like this, but just kind of trying things to see what works can be helpful. Another accommodation would be break larger tasks into smaller written down steps. So rather than have on my to-do list for the day laundry, that's too big of a task. We want to break that down into smaller steps. So we might want to say sort laundry and then start whites, move whites to the dryer, and then start colors, move colors to the dryer, fold whites, those kinds of things. You want to really break it down into as small of tasks as you can, because that's really going to help you get those things done, as well as just find them more manageable as well. Another accommodation strategy we would recommend would be using highlighters or color coding when following along with handouts. I also think this is important when you're following a recipe. You can use the highlighter to kind of keep track of where you're at. I know I've heard several clients talk about when they are following a recipe, they forget, like, did I just put that spice in? And so rather than making your dish taste gross from having too many spices or something, you can use that highlighter to kind of check off where you're at or follow along, so to speak. And then I think the biggest, most important accommodation for attention would be to take frequent brain breaks. So what is a brain break? A brain break is just what it sounds like, a break from whatever you are focusing on. Short brain breaks during work time have been shown to have real benefits. They reduce stress, anxiety, and frustration. We want you to, we want you to spend about 10 to 15 minutes with no stimulation for a brain break. So if you're worried you're going to fall asleep without stimulation, you might want to set a timer, but we don't want you playing on a screen. We want to give those eyes a break. I think listening to things is okay, as long as it's not a really soft volume and it's something relaxing to you. A lot of times even just like the sound of rain or white noise can be really calming to people. Yeah, just a brain break is just time to rest and to reset, recharge, so to speak. Oftentimes I speak about brain injury in terms of iPhones. So let's pretend like someone with a brain injury has like an iPhone 7 as their operating system, so to speak, whereas someone without brain injury is operating on the newest system, like an iPhone 14. So they need to charge that phone more frequently. Any of you with an older phone know that it needs to get plugged in probably several times a day. For those of you with a newer phone know that it's charged throughout the night and it stays charged throughout the day. Well, someone with brain injury, similar to that iPhone 7, it needs several times to recharge and reset throughout the day. That can be really, really helpful if you struggle with attention. I would highly recommend implementing those several times throughout your day. and scheduling them into your day so that you do take them. Another accommodation for attention is to use a recorder to help remember important details. I think of this one, especially at the doctor's office, if they're comfortable with it, I would ask, are you okay with that, with the recording this? You can have, there's voice memo oftentimes on your phone. If you just want to record the voice, you don't necessarily need the visual, so that you can hear the information. After visit summaries can help too with the doctor, but that also depends on your provider and how well they fill out those after visit summaries. But I do think the majority of us, if we keep asking for them, maybe they will get better about filling them in more accurately as well. But yes, use your phone as much as you can to help you remember important things. Also, taking pictures of things you need to remember can be very helpful. And you can also text yourself. I don't know if people realize that, but you can just type in your phone number or your name and send it to yourself, and then it will go into your notes to yourself, so to speak, and you can kind of review those, and then you can see the date when you sent them to, as to when you maybe took that picture or made that note. This is another accommodation for attention. You can try using doodling or fidget devices to stay focused. These can look different for everybody. There's kind of some pictures of some examples there. Sometimes that can help people stay focused. Other times that just distracts people. So you have to kind of figure out what works for you and what's best. But fidgets and doodling can improve attention. And then we want you to try to schedule your appointments during your most alert time frames. Typically, this is in the morning for majority of people, but everyone's different. So it just depends on what works for you. But we really want to try to be at our best when we're going into appointments and things like that. So that is it for your attention tip sheet. Thanks for listening. If you have further questions, you can contact us. You can call, email. Anyway, we are happy to help. Thank you. Bye.